Hi, we are really excited to be here tonight and talk to you about both Time and Tribe and how together we are actually building a full ecosystem for SMEs that's way beyond banking. For those of you who are involved with Banking on Women or with IFC, the idea of non-financial services has been around for a long time. And Tribe is really exciting because it's taken all of the different lessons that have come from the Financial Alliance for Women, from IFC, from the ADB, and combined them all into a really interesting platform. And that's what we're going to be discussing tonight. My name is Rachel Freeman. I'm the Chief Growth Officer of Time. And today is a great day for us because today we opened our bank in the Philippines. So now we can actually formally say that we are truly a multi-country digital bank because we have both the TymeBank in South Africa as well as GoTime in the Philippines. And I'm sure this is a record day, but we already, after the last couple of days, have around 15,000 customers already on the platform and as the bank. So we know that this is really going to take off as we grow. The Time is a multi-country digital banking group. Our flagship operation is TymeBank in South Africa, where we have around 5.6 million customers. We have a really interesting approach with social grant recipients that we'll discuss tonight. We have a number of different things we're doing with our new business banking that we'll be presenting during this discussion. But what we're really here to do is actually talk about how to build out an ecosystem. And we think at Time that we've actually done a really good thing on the first level by doing this through our relationships with grocery stores and fashion stores for account opening. But after that, we were kind of stuck as to what is the next step and how to build an ecosystem and how do we do that for all of the SME and small businesses and sole proprietors that are operating in South Africa and what we call the side hustle. And actually, we realized that no one banks the side hustle, so we actually decided to build this and offerings to help people with their side hustles, which we'll explain in more detail. But right now, what I want to do is introduce Mo Harvey, who is the CEO and founder of Tribe Fintech. And we can now hear from Mo about Tribe and how it is really helping to build out the ecosystem for Time in South Africa.
Sure. Thanks, Rachel. And good evening, good morning, good afternoon, good night, everyone who's joining. I'm really excited today to speak about the platform that we've built and the platform that we're launching with TymeBank in South Africa. We've only recently come out of stealth mode, but I've been working on this for over a year with this amazing team of experts from fintech, banking, incumbent banks, digital banks, and financial inclusion. So financial inclusion is at the core of what we're doing. And maybe if I just give a brief overview of what we've built is actually an ecosystem orchestration platform that we are white labeling to banks. So our model is B2B2C and we're platform as a service. And when myself and Rachel and the Time team were working in Southeast Asia on a digital bank, that never happened. We were looking at how we could differentiate ourselves in new markets and really add value to those underbanked segments that Rachel was talking about earlier on. And what we realized was that whereas there is this willingness and this desire for banks to work with SMEs, there's this incredible disconnect between the day-to-day life of an SME owner and what the banks think they're doing and vice versa. So what we realized was that if we could orchestrate partnerships or the SMEs that could turn these thin file customers into thick file customers, that we would be able to see these SMEs for what they truly were. So rather than just a thin credit score or some transactions, we were looking at how they were operating their business. I'll talk a little bit later on and walk you through some slides as to what we've actually built. But maybe Rachel, over to you first to speak about TymeBank's new business banking and SME initiative in South Africa.
So we are really excited because when we thought about actually who's underserved in South Africa in the area of sole proprietors, which is the focus that we have, we realized that there are two groups that really need the support. And the first are tradespeople. So that would be people who come and hang paintings at a house, or a yoga teacher, or a hairdresser, or in South Africa, it's fixing the electric fence, or helping to repair a pool. There's a whole host of what we call tradespeople, plumbers, electricians, that actually come to someone's home or come to a business and do something as a service and then need to be paid. And what had happened before is that those people then would actually send an invoice and hope that they get paid, but it could not happen kind of directly at the site of the transaction or the service that was delivered. So Time developed TymePOS, which is a point of sale machine on the phone. So what happens is, it's a separate app from the TymeBank app. You download that app, which is zero data. So we're not actually requiring our customers to use any of their precious data for this. And then when the entrepreneur or the tradesperson can then just enter a number of how much they want to charge the recipient of the service, then they tap a card, can be a debit card or a credit card, to the back of a phone. It has to be an Android phone, not an Apple, but an Android phone. And the transaction's made immediately, and we do settlement within the next 24 hours, which is significantly faster than any other bank in South Africa. So this is really revolutionary because we're actually reducing the risk of non-payment for the tradespeople. So this concept has really taken off. And we're actually helping them to create really a digital footprint. So we will be able to lend to these entrepreneurs. So this is the first of kind of our new offerings that we have. And the second one is called Time Sell on Social. So when we talked about with Time Sell on Social is that there are a number of people who have a side hustle. So for example, they have one job and then they may be kind of selling beer, selling beauty products, making candles, making all types of food and selling that on the side. Or they could be actually doing something larger as a side hustle. It's often, and very much in the case in South Africa, Kenya, and even in Pakistan, that these entrepreneurs are actually building up their side hustle. And at some point, these side hustles become the main hustle. And with that, we believe that we need to support these social sellers. A lot of them are selling on Instagram and Facebook Messenger. And with that, they actually need support, because what Mo will then tell you soon is that most entrepreneurs spend, way over 50% not on core parts of the business, on like admin. And I would say admin involved with that type of sale that is on Instagram or Facebook Messenger. You have to be answering, you have to be discussing, you have to be doing the website, you have to be kind of figuring out the logistics of the sale, all of these different pieces. So what Sell on Social does is we have a chatbot that hand manages a lot of the discussion with the customer. Then we actually have integrated in, there's kind of an AI system going in the background to help with business tools such as inventory and managing the inventory. And then we've hooked up with Pargo, which is a delivery group in South Africa. So we're providing the entrepreneur everything that they need to be able to sell on social media, which enables them to spend more time making, the candle or the beauty products that they want to sell. So these two are very important new offerings that we've just launched with our sole proprietor account. We actually had the sole proprietor account for a while, but we had not done as much with it. But now our big focus is on these sole proprietors, on these entrepreneurs, or you could call them owner-managed businesses. And with that, we launched Time Tribe, which is our partnership with Tribe Fintech. And now Mo can go through actually what we're doing with Time Tribe in South Africa.
Sure. And thanks, Rachel. So when we were looking at how to serve SMEs better, what we realized first was that SME owners want more from their banks. And that's the first place you start. So maybe they don't just need a financial product from their bank, but they need support around that. And in our research and through the focus groups that we've conducted over the last year, what we found was that over 75% of SMEs feel unsupported by their banks. And only 18% of them feel like they even have a strong relationship with their bank. It's even worse, obviously, if you're a woman-owned SME, having walked that path myself, albeit in a different jurisdiction. And the critical part that Rachel mentioned there was that 74% of an SME owner's time is spent on non-core business activities, right? So they're only spending 26% of their time on actually building their business in terms of the day-to-day of why they went out on their own or why they have started this side hustle. And what we realized was that if we could save an SME owner a couple of percentage points from those non-core business activities, the admin side, the upskilling side, the education side, that we could actually really make a difference here. And so that's what we're focusing on. Our platform is a non-financial services platform. It is an ecosystem of value-add services, all beyond banking, that a bank or a fintech can offer to its SME customers. So we are a white label solution. We disappear. They don't know about Tribe. It's whatever the bank wants to call it. In this case, Time has gone for a Time Tribe, and it's just powered by Tribe. And what we saw here was that there is this unbelievable opportunity out there, because we know that 100% of banks and fintechs and challengers offer some form of non-financial services already. So that's a value add to be a differentiator in the market and to gain market share, to one up your competitors, whatever it is, 100% of banks are offering this in some shape or form. And 94% of these non-financial services, these value adds, the nice to haves, are outsourced. And of course they are, because the bank should be focusing on what they do best, which is the lending, the credit, the financial products. But if you take a step back and you realize that 100% of banks are offering non-financial services, 94% of that is outsourced, you realize the data and the insights that are just being bled everywhere because of this. Think of all the information, the insights about that SME that you're losing because you've outsourced that. And the outsourcing isn't the problem, it's the reporting and the auditing of these. And so what in discussions from across Asia, Africa, and as recently as the UK only last week, when we were speaking to a bank there, the reporting from these non-financial services, these value-add service providers, is ad hoc. And it's completely disconnected. So a bank could be getting reports back in email and PDF, PowerPoint, EDIs, CSVs, Excel, you name it. It's this word of mouth. And so what we realized was that if you could create a platform which integrated or orchestrated all of this, that you could make the data speak in a more valuable way about that SME, that there was something here that could benefit the SME, most importantly, but also benefit the bank. And what we also knew is that 82% of SMEs are actually willing to share their data with their primary bank. There's already an element of trust there. And ultimately, and interestingly, from one of our focus groups, when we were asking about whether an SME owner would actually even be willing to share the business data, the answer was, of course, the bank is going to run a credit score on me anyway. They'll have a view of me. So if I can show them what my business really is and that I'm taking the best steps or the next steps to make a go of this, I'm willing to do that. And we also then know that ecosystems are expensive to build. This is a tech platform. It's beyond banking, and that's what we are. That's what we have built. When banks try to do this, and many banks do, but it can come at a tremendous cost and a distraction to the tech teams, to the senior management teams, to all the stakeholders that are involved in that. And what the end result is an unscalable platform, which kind of sometimes doesn't have an owner, sometimes it does, but there's been an awful lot of resources, both time and financial spent on this. So these were all the rationales, the rationale for us realizing that this platform needed to be built. So what have we done? So we have created a white label platform that's an ecosystem in a box. So a bank can buy this. It can fully integrate its own ecosystem of partners into this, which we work with a bank to do. And if a bank doesn't already have that ecosystem of partners, we can co-create it with them. And we're doing this, picking critical pieces or elements that are important for an SME owner to either start or to scale their business. And we've cut this across 3 pillars in particular. Across community. So we've built a Facebook style platform mixed with LinkedIn for SMEs. So it's a Facebook for SMEs mixed with a LinkedIn for SMEs, so where they can create a verified business profile that can be data matched against the bank. And so we can show that this person has been KYC'd, they can connect their products, they connect all their socials, and this becomes their digital calling card. So the community platform is critical because we're also working with community groups in each market to moderate those. So we don't believe that the bank should be moderating all of these groups. We believe that the power is in the peer-to-peer connection. And so that's why we've gone out and identified a large number of grassroots SME true community leaders who are working with us in South Africa first. The second part then is education. Because what we found was that most SME owners just say, I don't know where to start. So that's why I'm spending 74% of my time figuring things out. I don't know where to start. So just show me the path. Don't walk it for me, but just show me how to start this. And so what that means is that we've partnered with global tech companies, but also leading local universities and again, SME organizations to create what we're calling these business pathways, which are bite-sized, digestible, gamified, practical business pathways. They can be short. You're not getting an MBA through this platform. And these are delivered by the local partners, but through this digital platform. And like I said, they're gamified. So each SME owner then can accumulate badges and certificates through this platform as well. And as Rachel said, social selling is just growing in every market that we're looking at as well. So we're delighted that we have Meta on board as our first content partner, where we've co-created WhatsApp 101, how to sell on Instagram 101, how to sell on Facebook 101. But we're also partnering with local leading universities in that respect. The third pillar after community education is business tools. And this is a follow-on from the education pathways because I don't know where to start. Okay, well, here's a business pathway that's practical on how to start your side hustle, for example, or how to start selling online. But at the end of that journey, there's a click to action, and that click will be to the relevant digital business tool that you need at that time, or that people like you are using already. And that's where our ecosystem of partners comes in, because we have partnerships with local digital business tools and also global digital business tools as well. But we're agnostic. So we work with each bank to co-create that ecosystem or that universe of potential partners for them. When we were looking at this and having spoken to a number of banks, there's this question when it comes to a bank of, well, we could build this ourselves. And the answer is, of course you could. But with us, when you buy Tribe, you're buying this turnkey solution. It's a single contractual relationship. So no longer is the bank having to deal with this universe or multitude of contractual parties. It is a rich ecosystem in a box. So we've already integrated with a large number of these partners, and we're continuing. We can do about 30 a year plus, but that's based on the current team at the moment. And on top of that, we've built this to be enterprise grade already. Rachel, maybe if you just want to speak from the bank's perspective as to dealing with partnerships, ecosystems, and the tech integrations themselves from the time perspective.
Yeah, so I believe that all financial institutions that are participating in this would have the same issue, which is that while you have this partnership you hear about, you think this would be amazing to do, and let's move forward and do this as quickly as possible. There are lots of challenges to partnerships. And even a bank like Time, which is very data-driven and quite small, we only have 220 people in South Africa. It's still as a process to actually onboard vendors and to onboard and integrate tech partners. So when we start looking at this, we have a number of things we need to do from the regulatory side, from the risk side, from the technology side, look at the commercials for each partnership, think of how to do this, allocate teams for that. In the end, it actually gets really expensive, even though it does not sound like it would be. It adds up and the time adds up. So there was one partnership we really wanted to do, and everybody was aligned, but it still took around 9 months to get off the ground because we had to integrate. We had to think of where best to do that. What is the name for it? What is the marketing for it? How to do this, all these different pieces. So what we like about Tribe is that we can say, we would need to actually use these partners. So it's not that Tribe came and said, we have these partners that we want you to use. We were able to say, these are groups that we think are important, and tools that we think are important, or this is the type of education tools and videos that we need. And then they built all of this, and it made it really easy, because all of that more challenging kind of integrations that need to happen, because we are, a regulated institution, actually we're much easier to work with through Tribe. So sometimes I feel like that Tribe is like a middleware between us and a number of partners that we want to work with, and it makes it so much easier, so we can integrate into, many partners. There's going to be, several partners that can happen each quarter, each month, now that we have Tribe operating in South Africa. And that has just opened up a new kind of way of us thinking about partnerships that we hadn't been doing before. That's the first piece. And then the second piece of this is that it's actually taken off, as well as kind of with Tribe, this piece, it's actually released a lot of time, which has enabled us. We're a quite lean operation. And so, a number of the different people on the legal side, the compliance side, actually were freed up, because they were spending so much time with all these partners before. So from that side, we feel that we've actually saved a lot of money by actually working with Tribe, and that's been quite helpful as we are launching our business banking strategy. The other piece is that, we had an SME account before, our sole proprietor account, for the last year, but we weren't really marketing it.
Oh, okay. So we did lose Rachel. I'm sorry. I thought it was mine. So maybe I'll just continue on while Rachel rejoins. So from our perspective, what this platform is doing and the power of partnerships for an SME is in the data and the insights into that SME. So what I've shown here is that if you can coordinate or orchestrate a multitude of partners putting across education, business, tools, and community platforms, etc., and find out really about that mindset of the SME, but also their goals, their current state, their future state of where they want to get to, you can understand more about what you actually need to offer them, the right tool at the right time, which then obviously then leads to the right financial product at the right time, assuming that they've reached that scale. And so what we realized was that through this creation of this unique business profile, because we're pulling from a multitude of data sources, you can understand and create behavioral insights. But you can also probably create an alternative credit score based on that real business data. So what we're doing with TymeBank is we're sending all of that information back to the bank, and then therefore they can create more targeted products or faster financing and access to information. What we're interested in is, did we help that SME owner start their business, or did they take a course? Did they take a digital business tool? Did they join a group? Did they have a conversation? Did they create a connection within this platform that actually helped them? And that for us is what drives us. Rachel, you're back. You were frozen for a couple of seconds there.
Yeah, I kind of lost everything, but what I wanted to,
okay.
Yes. So I think what's interesting to do is to talk about the fact we were discussing customer acquisition, is that through Tribe, we were able to meet a whole new kind of ecosystem that we didn't have any access to before. And that is all of these Facebook groups that are a number of entrepreneurs together. And so through our partnership with Tribe, we've been now exposed to all kinds of Facebook groups. And this helped us not just in South Africa where Tribe's developing us, but also we have actually tapped into all of these networks as well in the Philippines. With our launch today of GoTime, we actually had a number of the Facebook group leaders participating in our launch. But what we do is actually we can go through some of the partners that Tribe was actually able to find for us.
Sure. So we don't believe that there is a one-size-fits-all approach for a platform like this. And when we were assessing the vendor landscape over the last couple of years, from the bank's perspective as to what we could buy that was already out there, we realized that there wasn't, because we found was that there was a platform or technology provider, perhaps from India, that was trying to apply the same logic and partnerships into the Philippines. And we just knew that that wouldn't work. So the fundamental here that has to be done with each bank or partner is this co-creation journey that we take with everyone. So we sat down with the TymeBank leadership, but multi-stakeholders from within that, SME, marketing, partnerships, customer experience, commercial, brand ambassadors, you name it, growth. And we sat down and mapped out their existing partnership ecosystem. And then what we said was, right, this is where we think you're missing partners, and let us fill that gap for the time being. Unless you have a local partner that is more appropriate, we'll fill that gap for the time being, and we'll assess whether that these are actually adding value to the SMEs. So we're agnostic. If we see that something isn't working, we can pull it. If we see that a tool isn't resonating with a particular customer segment, we don't offer it again. It's as simple as that. So we started again in those core pillars of business, education, pathways, and community. And we mapped out the best in the market that we saw. And it requires a local team and local knowledge to do that. But we worked with the bank on doing that, and also hired people on the ground as well. And so we have this sort of ecosystem of global partners that's ever expanding, which might just, for example, with TymeBank, they said social selling is really important to us. Okay, fine. Well, what are the medium that social sellers are selling through? Well, it's obviously definitely Facebook, it's WhatsApp, it's Instagram, and TikTok, we know, absolute must as well. And then when it came to the local and regional partners, we realized that there was a lot of overlooked grassroots community leaders, and you could generally find them on Facebook or with your local knowledge of who was actually adding real value. These groups were not necessarily the best funded or even remotely government funded, or no grant recipients. They were just doing it at a grassroots and love what they do and genuine helping their community. So what we found was that by identifying these leaders within Facebook or local community groups, when we approached them and said, how could we help you? Their answer is always, I want to grow my network and I want to commercialize this, because generally speaking, the commercialization of a large community group is very difficult. And they need a platform to do that on as well. So we worked with a number of these local partners that are down in the bottom left-hand side, and we have an ever-expanding universe of that. And it changes and grows based on the customer segments that Time is telling us that they're interested in servicing next. So for example, Brown Sense is a BEE network, people who sell at markets and are now beginning to sell online. TymeBank also told us that they wanted to help tradespeople. So Black Suppliers is a local community group for bookies, tradies, electricians, you name it. And they have a large customer base as well. And a lot of them either need to be banked or they need help digitizing their businesses. Entered the digital business tool partners as well. And so we started again with that segment of social sellers and looked at what they needed. The answer was an e-commerce store, because you would be amazed at the amount of people who don't have that. Knowledge as to how to sell on Facebook or through TikTok or through Google, just understanding those very sort of elementary elements, but actually they're quite difficult to get started on. So if you could offer them free e-commerce stores at the beginning and help them grow their business that way. And then obviously logistics becomes really important. And Rachel's already mentioned the logistics Pargo partnership. And then we also looked at what else is the next thing that the bank actually needs from these SMEs in order to service them and offer them some financial products. The answer is, on top of that real business data that we'd be pulling from their invoicing or their e-commerce stores, it's their accounting, it's their books. And so again, the answer was partner with some local leading universities or grassroots organizations on the fundamentals or the importance of good finances or best practices. And at the end of those journeys, offer them a free and easy to use or minimal costing, easy to use, super SME friendly solution. So in our process of identifying, say, for example, cloud accounting platforms, we tested and did DD vendor through tech DD on about 20 different cloud accounting platform providers. We settled on FreshBooks for companies over a certain revenue threshold, and SMEs, which is actually a local South African cloud accounting solution. Following on from that, obviously alternative lending is important because if a bank can't finance that SME, we don't want them to hit a brick wall. This should not be a cul-de-sac, and we should be able to help them obtain funding elsewhere. So alternative lending partners becomes really interesting for us as well. And obviously, Rachel, if you want to talk about retail capital a little bit.
Yes, but first, Mo, we actually have a specific question from Adrian Sakria, and he's wondering if Tribe will be able to work in an environment where the SME entrepreneurs are financially illiterate and running their businesses using traditional means.
I mean, so the answer is this is a digital first platform. We're a startup, Adrian, so we can't solve for everything, but we would look to partner with grassroots organizations that might be able to help them on that journey. But we're a tech platform, so I think there's bigger, more established players in each market that should be focusing on that before we could even step in. We're a digital first platform.
Yeah, and so then what Mo wanted to talk about is retail capital. So we were thinking, so our DNA initially was in transactional banking. So we have the best kind of bank account for South Africans. And we have the highest net promoter score. So we know that we're actually doing a really good job at just purely banking just low income South Africans. However, lending is something that we were about to start, but then the pandemic hit. And so it's hard to start a lending book while you're still in the kind of the outer edges of COVID and the pandemic. So this led us to actually think it's better for us to acquire a lender rather than start our own book. And in the summer, we acquired Retail Capital, which is the largest digital SME lender in South Africa. Retail Capital actually has a very interesting model where it lends off of the point of sale machines. So it takes a little bit of the sales, a tiny fraction of the sales each day. So it's no collateral, unsecured loan, and it's based on the actual sales of the business and kind of waivers, and the payments waiver based on the sales cycle of the business. So we think that's actually a really interesting model, not just for South Africa, but in many countries. And we are thinking about this as well. And Retail Capital has since visited the Philippines. And if we're so honored to get a bank license in Pakistan where we've applied, we actually think there's lots of opportunity in Pakistan for Retail Capital as well. So it means, but what that means is that we really actually need those point of sale machines to work. We need to have the digitization of the businesses. We need that digital footprint to grow. And that's why, we launched in partnership with Tribe, all the different education tools to actually build a digital footprint. And we launched TymeBank, Sell on Social. These are all mechanisms to increase the digital footprint of these sole proprietors, because some of them actually are running traditional businesses and they think they're financially illiterate, but actually they're not. It's just that they don't know which of the tools to use and how to do that. So that's what we're trying to offer with the number of products that we have. The other thing that we're doing in South Africa is that we have figured out a new mechanism for banking social grant recipients. So when we had this really good account, but we didn't have any social grant recipients who are banking with us. And we thought, how could this be? We did a lot of work with CGAP as to who are our best customers and what types of customers we were working with. Actually, that was presented at this financial inclusion a year ago this week. And so we knew that there was some kind of issue that was happening in that whole process. And so we mapped out the process with the social with our social grant recipients and found that they required to have a bank account information in paper. And of course, time, we don't believe in any paper. We don't have any paper or pens anywhere. We always have to rely on Tribe staff in the office with us when we're talking to them to provide the paper and pens, because we just don't have anything like that. So with this, we knew we had to redo everything. And so we restructured some of our processes, brought in tablets, retrained our ambassadors to go to the social grant offices, and launched a new mechanism for social grant recipients about 5 months ago. And now we have around 700,000 social grant recipients on as customers, and we are actually banking them profitably. So we are taking those people who would fit into the group, Adrian, that you talked about, which are financially illiterate, and kind of just figuring out how to make it kind of month by month. And we're actually helping them to become digitally literate by walking the journey with them. We're offering them all the different products that we have, and so that they can actually start to do and actually formalize more the side hustle. Because what we've learned is that all of these people, they actually do have some kind of small business that they're doing in some way. And if we can, through Tribe, get them to actually start having a digital footprint, that is the path to being able to have stronger kind of, in some ways, wealth build up through a bank account, as well as being able to access lending products, which we would do through retail capital. So with that, then I think the next important thing to talk about is that while Tribe is actually, we're the first country and first bank that Tribe has been working with, Tribe is now moving to other countries. So I think, Mo, it'd be interesting to hear where you're thinking of going next with Tribe.
Sure. So what we know is that ecosystems work, and they are popping up in every market. It doesn't have to be a mature market or particularly developed from a banking perspective. SME or even just customers, so retail-focused ecosystems are popping up across the globe. And so there's this element of value-add services, this understanding of banks that they need to do more than just banking to service or acquire service and maintain loyalty from customers alike. So whereas we are starting as an SME platform, we do already understand from conversations with a number of other banks that maybe this should be offered to their retail customers as well, as a way for connecting the entire ecosystem for them. And creating this sort of self-contained commercial loop as well. So what we're doing is you can't expand too quickly. Success can kill a startup as much as failure. So we are expanding across Africa and Southeast Asia, core focus in Central Asia as well, for the foreseeable future. LATAM and North America would be later for us, but we're focusing on the markets where we have the most interest from the most banks at the moment. And actually, interestingly enough, this isn't necessarily a solution that is exclusively for digital banks. It's certainly not being built that way. And the conversations that we're having with the incumbent banks is that even though they've been around longer and have bigger teams, they're the ones who want this more, because there's so many partners that they would need to, that they have, but also they might need to orchestrate as well. So we know that there's some banks already doing it out there, and they're doing it really well, by the way. But not everyone has the resources of Standard Bank or Ping An or UOB for that matter. And even if they are doing it, some of them might claim to be doing it, but when you look under the hood, all it is this sort of thin layer of partnerships and customized URLs with no data actually being acquired in the background either, or there's no insights created on that SME. So we're Africa and Southeast Asia focused for the next while, and that's without question. And we see some really exciting opportunities coming through as well from regional banks who are particularly interested of the possibility of connecting their customer bases to do business with each other across markets. And we're really excited about that as well. I mean, our blue sky was, what if we could create a connected business community? And we think that that's where we're going. The other thing is that we're really excited about is that actually, notwithstanding the fact that this is a solution for any and all SMEs, because it can be co-created based on the segments that are important to our partners, but we know that women SMEs can particularly benefit from this. I mean, this as a concept, when I was reading about this a long time ago, this is actually just a a community platform for WSMEs, but then we realized it could serve us more. But what we know is that there is a huge opportunity in Sub-Saharan Africa and for Southeast Asia, particularly on this. It's a subject matter that's close to my heart and especially to Rachel's as well after a lifetime of work on this. So we're really excited about working with grassroots women community groups, female entrepreneur groups, not necessarily within in the formal sector at all, and seeing how we can help them. We also know that in the sort of the fashion, the retail, the health and beauty, the mobile services, the home-owned businesses, home-created businesses, those kitchen table businesses, that there's a huge proportion of women-led businesses there that we can hopefully work with as well. So we're really excited about the opportunity that this brings, and we're looking at in particular markets like Pakistan for having true impact on that. We also know that the credit gap and the behavioral insights into how women-owned SMEs actually operate is quite different. So this ability to have a community becomes really important. So this is a trusted and safe space for a female entrepreneur, a woman-owned side hustler, to find those peer-to-peer connections. It also means that a bank can help them more when traditionally they might have been underserved. You know, Time might be an outlier in this respect with majority female customers, but we know that we can definitely work with banks that are also looking to address this issue. We can put the S into ESG here. We collect everything on a sex disaggregated basis from day one. Rita, do you want to speak about TymeBank and the women's market?
Actually, we have a number of different questions for you, Mo. So, yeah, so Anne-Marie Von Swinderen has asked that we say that you mentioned data a lot. Could you give some examples of the type of data you use?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, from the onboarding journey alone, we'll have about 300 plus data points on an SME. And that's everything from their current state, their mindset, their location, their gender, their preferences, their digital business tools, their socials, etc. As we watch them grow and hopefully use the platform more, obviously those insights get much richer. And that's everything from, did this person take a course? Did they finish a course? Do they have the ability to finish a course? How long does it take them to do that? Do they drop out after 3 seconds or 10 seconds? What's their engagement rate in that? What's their engagement rate within a community? What groups are they joining? What are their interest topics that they've flagged? Is that what they looked like previously, or have they grown through that sort of customer graduation, growth graduation journey? So that, I mean, in terms of the behavioral and the analytics, and what we're going to be doing is turning that onboarding questionnaire, which is very easy to do, it takes no more than 3 minutes, is that we turn that into an annual survey then as well. And it's all, because it's within this one platform, we've got intercom integration, so we can ask these questions and interact with the SMEs pretty quickly. We can also have that feature to pulse surveys within the community group as well, so you can assess how they're feeling. That's what we'd like to do longer term, or where do they need help. But actually, on the digital business tools, we only work with digital first partners. So what that means is that we can surface the accounting information, for example, or if they've taken, for example, an e-commerce store, we can surface their new customers, number of new customers acquired, their best-selling products, their turn rates, their churn rates, and their delivery rates, etc. So for any partner that we're integrating, there's a data set that comes with that becomes really important. And all of those things orchestrated and combined through a unified platform means that you can create this sort of whole new unique business profile based on all of those. So they're just some examples, and that will be growing depending on the university ecosystem of partners that we co-create in each market.
All right, and then another question is from Lucy B. For Tribe, does your key partner always need to be a bank as the anchor partner?
It's a great question. The answer is no. Because we can actually work, we know that if the organization has a large SME base or customer base that they want to service, they can probably work with Tribe. We're starting with banks because we know that, I mean, first of all, it's our background, but also we know that there is just such a clear need and a desire to digitize and serve customers more. So, you know, from a company growth perspective, you start where you see has the funds, the interest, the willingness, and the ability to execute with us. we'd love to work with governments, obviously, but there's a pace issue there and a red tape issue. And, negotiating a contract would be a different task altogether. But the short answer is no. And we would love to work with a non-financial institution organization to trial this out. Like I said, it's that co-creation element that becomes really critical, because maybe it's not about surfacing the financial information, but integrating other partners, but they have to be digital first partners. I will keep going back to that, but we'd love to see who else we could work with for sure. If you have a large SME customer base, how are you servicing them? How would you like to service them? What's important to your SME customers? And then we could map that out.
All right, thank you. So first, if there are other questions, please ask them and send them into the chat on the swap card platform, and then we will be immediately answering them as you have seen. Mo previously, she had asked me about kind of gender at time. So with us, we've been tracking, of course, we have sex disaggregated data from day 0. And I always say that's the floor of what you need to be doing, not the ceiling, but the floor. That is the basic foundation of any institution at this point, should be collecting that data. So from that, we actually now have about 60% of our customers who are women. This number is growing, and we believe it's growing, first of all, because we onboard customers in retail environments. We believe that actually no one wakes up in the morning and says, today I want to go get a bank account. So you need to manufacture that interaction. So we have put digital kiosks and ambassadors into the grocery stores and into the retail fashion stores. So when you walk in, you're already thinking about kind of using money. You're already thinking you're going to make a transaction, you're going to be buying something. So it's just in your mind to open that bank account. In the kiosks, which are now in both South Africa and in the Philippines, you can open a bank account in between 3 and 5 minutes. What you get is a Visa debit card with your name printed on it, and then you can go to the cash register in that store and put money onto the account and then start using the account. So you don't have to wait for something. It's immediate. It happens all immediately, and that is a very easy way to actually get people to start to learn how to transact. We have ambassadors who are in the stores who do financial literacy training. They don't help you use the kiosk. It's very easy to use. It's completely self-service. But what they do is teach you how to use the account, and then also kind of teach you broadly about financial literacy and how to start that journey of kind of of being in digital financial services, which we actually think is a foundation for financial inclusion. Forward. That's why we've spent so much time thinking how to onboard appropriately and how to help people start and walk the journey in their digital financial kind of life. With that, because we believe in one of our foundations at Time is that we think you can only walk from where you stand. And so we meet people where they're standing in terms of their digital financial journey, and then we walk with them. And actually all of our products are designed that way, as well as our partnership with Tribe. It's all about meeting people where they are and walking them on that journey. So that meant that we've actually, through that process, been able to attract women to the bank in South Africa. And we're hoping to do the same in the Philippines, and then been able to provide a lot of different products and services to meet their needs. We also think that our social grant recipients will be, as there's a higher percent of women who receive these grants, this was also driving the increase of women customers. However, what's really interesting is that with our buy now, pay later product called More Time, which is actually less online and more in the stores. It's in our partner retail stores, this type of financial services and short-term lending. That is actually right now around 72% women, which again, we think it's designed well. It's not based on interest, but it's based on fees and structuring. Actually, what happens is you pay kind of 50% of the product upfront. So if you're buying, let's say, some pots and pans to cook with, or a very easy stove to use, then you pay 50% upfront, and then 25 and 25%, and then the merchant actually pays us. That's how we make the money, not from the customer. And this product has appealed a lot to women, so we have been driving this in terms of onboarding more women. But actually, as I'm saying this, we're getting a lot of questions in, and I want to make sure that we get all of people's questions answered. So the first one is to Mo. Can you tell us, I assume this is to Mo, but I can answer this for time as well. Can you tell us more about your expansion strategy to new countries and regions? What are the drivers of this expansion and main challenges you face? So from the time perspective, you know, we have South Africa, and now we have the Philippines, and we have applied for the license in Pakistan. When we look at countries, there needs to be kind of progressive regulation, which we have in all three countries. You need to have actually the ability to use cloud. We are quite cost efficient because of the we're cloud based. So if cloud is not allowed in that country, it makes it very difficult for us to work there. There needs to be an interesting go-to-market strategy with the retailers. We need to be able to figure out how to work with retailers in the countries that we go to. And the last piece is there needs to be quite high friction. So it means we don't do as well as a bank when we work in countries in which there's no fees and there's just, it's all based on lending. We need there to be friction. So when we look at countries, we actually did a whole survey on what are the highest friction countries for banking in the world. And that is why one of the reasons that we were so attracted by working in Pakistan. We then traveled there several times. It was kind of in the, just as COVID was ending. So we were able to go there and we realized this is a perfect market for us. And with about only 12% of women having accounts, we actually think that Pakistan needs us as well. So that's how Time expands. And now I'll turn it over to Mo to talk about how Tribe expands.
Sure. So I guess we're quite lucky in terms of, and since coming out of stealth mode, there's been a lot of interest. So we're getting pulled into markets that weren't necessarily part of our initial roadmap, and we're happy to do that. So the banks themselves who've approached us are creating demand for us. But on top of that, like Rachel said, we are also a cloud first and digital platform. So that becomes really important to us. The other thing that we would look at is there a willingness and senior stakeholder buy-in from the bank to work with us on this? Because this is, like I said, co-creation, it's platform as a service. So we work in a partnership model. This is not SaaS. We'll work with a bank to make sure that it is a success, but commitment of resources, it's not just about buying a solution and off you go. So there is a time and there's an investment element, but it's nominal compared to if a bank was trying to do this themselves. But that upfront investment of time from senior leadership is actually really important for us. So that's one of our sort of prerequisites. And also actually for us at the moment, it's does the bank or the partner have a sufficiently large SME base? Because it actually reduces the cost of this platform anyway, but it also means that we can create more insights into a larger number of SMEs. We're pretty, the way our model is working is that, you know, if we're working with a bank in, you know, Kenya and South Africa, and we're working with Malaysia, Indonesia, and the Philippines, was that we actually become this sort of repository of insights, not the data, the insights into SME behavior across markets and across continents. That becomes really interesting to us as well. But right now it's cloud. We're really agnostic as to languages. The platform has been built to be language agnostic as well. So we're indifferent as to that. But that's really sort of the go-to-market strategy is we're focused on Africa, we're focused on Southeast Asia for growth markets. Large populations is very interesting to us as well. I mean, you'll hear from the accent that I am Irish, but TymeBank has more customers than the entire population of my country. So that becomes definitely more interesting as well. But we can also work in established markets and fully banked markets as well. So, I mean, blue sky for us is we can be everywhere, but we will be strategic in Africa and Southeast Asia for the foreseeable future. I can't see any questions because I'm sharing the screen.
So, yes, so the next question actually, Mo, is along this line, which is how much customization is possible for bank customers? For example, if a bank already has target partners, can they be incorporated onto Tribe's ecosystem, and how long does it take?
Yeah, I mean, so the answer is yes. They can be incorporated. That's why we've built this. This is not, as Rachel said, this is not a case of us saying, here's your ecosystem for you. This is co-created. So we will work with the grassroots communities, the local solution providers. So the local cloud accounting platform provider in South Africa will work with a Filipino equivalent or an Indonesian equivalent. So the answer is we map it out. We take a look at your ecosystem and we fill the gaps, or we see what else can be added to that. That's really important for us. So the answer is it can be totally customizable. And you have to just remember what we are is actually just sort of this infrastructure, this skeleton platform for a bank to populate, really. So when you customize the colors, the content, the copy, the community groups, the education pathways, the business pathways, the community moderators, the language, the imagery, the tone, the content, the voice, all which is fed in with the bank and co-created with our content managers, our SME program managers, our community managers. Every platform looks and feels completely different. That is why we are white label.
So with that, actually, Anne-Marie still has more questions for you. So she said, thank you, Mo, for the types of data you use. Which data points do you find most useful? The data that you collect about your clients through the process, like how long they're in a course, whether they finished the course, or self-reported data like survey answers?
Survey answers, because what that will mean is we'll listen to the customer. If you listen to the SME as to where they need help, you can build a recommendation and insights and tools, pathways, whatever it is, that actually really helps them. If you listen to the SME as to where they need help and track their growth graduation through that, you can add more value to them. The parts of insights, like I mentioned, for the 3 seconds, the 10 seconds, etc., they're all interesting, but they actually are probably more valuable to our content providers, because that's a great way for them now to independently assess the hit rate and success rate and effectiveness of their courses as well. So we're sending all of those insights back to our content partners as well. So that becomes interesting. But ultimately, if we listen to the SMEs and understand their pain points and we build a platform around them, that's where the true magic happens. And that's at the core of what we do. That's what drives us every day. The focus groups are the most rewarding thing you'll ever do, but listening to your customer and building for that is at the heart of Tribe.
So with
the details are there if anyone wants to get in touch as well.
Yes, so I think that we're coming to the end of our session, and I hope everyone found this super useful. Like, we're really excited for TymeTribe in South Africa and what it's going to be able to do for those sole proprietors that are onboarding with us. And now we'll be able to communicate. They'll be able to find out more tools, use them. They'll be able to learn more faster and more efficiently. They'll have people to talk to. And this to us means that they're going to be kind of more vibrant, dynamic customers for us, and that we'll be able to lend to them, which is one of the things that these sole proprietors really want. If you listen to focus groups, in the end, they're all looking to have greater access to capital. And what we believe is that through Tribe, we're going to be able to do that. And we're going to be able to expand Tyme's footprint with sole proprietors. Right now, we're mainly still a retail consumer bank, but we really want to be equally a sole proprietor and a business bank. So this is all through Tribe. We actually think that we're going to be able to move forward much faster. And actually, a year from now, I look forward to actually telling the stories, now one about Philippines in a year at this event, but also all the things that we've been able to do together, and that how Tribe has helped us as we've grown our business banking at Time. So thank you to Mo for actually organizing this and for providing us with this great content for Financial Inclusion Week. We think that this is a really interesting new platform that in some ways it's a great honor for me, because everything I did while I was at IFC, particularly the last 9 years, kind of all led up to actually wanting a solution like for this. So when Mo approached Time with the solution, it really was a dream come true to me. And I hope that this session has been useful to everybody. And please get in touch with us. We're actually really easy to talk to. And we would be happy to share more about both Time and Tribe and how we can both work with your institutions. At Time, we're always happy to help anybody who's thinking about digital. We want to actually grow the number of institutions like ours in many countries.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. Bye.